morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Dr. Jan with Relationship Matters TV. I hope everyone is having a beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening. And I hope the weather is not what we're calling here in Chicago bipolar, where you are. We're going from beautiful, balmy 70 degrees one day to snow flurries the next day. We don't know what to do. But you know what? We're just happy we're here above ground to even experience the weather. So, what I want to do first before I go anywhere is for people who know me personally and who kind of read some of my social media, I want to thank you for your well wishes because for people who don't know, I was extremely ill last week. Um, I did the show because they said the show must go on, but I was in excruciating pain. Ended up being in the emergency room Monday. Ended up not eating, dehydrated. I lost 7 pounds. I kind of wanted to lose some weight, but I didn't want to lose it that way. But anyway, I am well on the mend and happy to be with you here today. And let's talk about, my guest today. So this is what I want you to do. Male or female, call someone, email them, message them, because we're going to talk about something that I would say I'm going to be conservative about, I'll say 80% of us parents have gone through what we are going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about is divorce and children and how it affects our children or how it affected our children. And it's so appropriate because this is child abuse prevention month. And often we think about physical abuse, but there's also such a thing as emotional abuse. So now I hear my door squeaking. You know what that means? That means my cat decided she wanted to join us today. But anyway, let me tell you about my guest today. Her name is Rosalind Sedacca, who is a certified divorce coach. She is the voice of child-centered divorce. And she is a divorce coach and a co-parenting coach. She's a mother and a mentor and founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network. Now, when I have a conversation with my guests, I always want to know if they are experiencing or have experienced what they are passionate about. Because, I really want us to have an authentic experience here. And Rosalind, having raised a child through divorce and the years that followed, understands the pain, the anxiety, the anger, the hurt, and all kinds of other emotions that deeply impact so many divorces with children. So I want to bring to you, without further ado, as they say, Rosalind Sedacca. Hi, Rosalind.
Hi there. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
It's a pleasure to be with you also today. So let me tell you, people. Well, I know some of you out there probably are where she is. She's in sunny, West Palm Beach, Florida. Just wanted to throw that in. So, Rosalind, this is so important. And you know what? So I thought about it because I am a divorced parent. And I never thought to ask my son how he felt about, the divorce. And I am a product of divorced parents.
Mhm.
And I was never asked that. So tell me, I gave a little bit of your history of why you are doing this, but go a little bit more deeper for us.
Absolutely. Yes. So I was married in a marriage that was starting to turn more and more difficult and sour. And for years, I wanted to get divorced, but I was afraid to because I didn't want to scar my son. And I was feeling so guilty about all of that. And so I tried everything to keep the marriage going. And it got worse and worse. And my son started showing signs of the stress. He was getting tension headaches and things like that. So I knew at this point I had to do something. And he was 11 then. And it was the hardest decision I'd made in my life. I actually went to therapy and spent years working on getting the courage to make this move. And then when I did, my ex and I had to learn how to go through the divorce and raising our son. And this was back in the 90s. So this was a different time. There wasn't nearly the support, the information, and the insights that are available today. So we had to figure it out ourselves. And we did. We raised our son. And one day when he was in his early 20s, he came to me literally out of the blue one day. And he said, Ma, you and Daddy really did a great job with the divorce. And I just want to thank you because most of my friends whose parents divorced either hate their parents or are very angry at them. And I think you and Daddy really did a good job. And I just let out such a sigh of relief. I was holding on to so much guilt. And it became a pivotal moment in my life because I realized I had learned so much about what to do and what not to do and how to do it and how to deal with conflict and all of the things that are part of the post-divorce reality that I realized that there's something that I could share. And so ultimately I founded the Child-Centered Divorce Network, became a divorce and co-parenting coach. And because my background was in writing way before any of this happened, I wrote several books and ebooks and e-courses and programs for people who can't afford one-on-one coaching, but still need resources and information to help them get through it in the best possible way. And here I am now celebrating. This month is my 20th anniversary.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So your son said you did your divorce, he congratulated you. But what did you do, that you could help us with, at least parents now who are maybe going through a divorce? What did you do? Why did he say,
What we did is put ourselves in his shoes. I realized innately, intuitively, because I didn't have any schooling or education in this particular field, but I knew that one of the worst things you could possibly do is fight around the children and make the children feel they have to choose between one parent or the other. It emotionally destroys them. And this has been proven. I later learned after all the schooling that I did have, that one of the biggest mistakes of all is fighting around your children. Even if it's in the other room and you're screaming at each other with the door closed, it doesn't matter. You have to keep it away from them. They're hearing, they're seeing, they're feeling it because they pick up on the tension and it's very harmful for them. So we knew not to do that. And we also were very aware of the fact that you don't want your children to ever have to choose between the parents. They love both of the children. And so I learned that the most important thing that a child wants during and after a divorce is for both of his parents or her parents to be there and behaving still as parents. So no matter what your relationship is with your ex, how you feel about them personally, and obviously you're not in a love relationship at all anymore, but if you can have enough respect for one another that you can agree, we love our children more than anything else, and they're top priority. If the children become the center of every decision you make, then the children are going to benefit because the one thing they don't have to do is worry about their parents beating each other up, fighting about each other, ridiculing each other and making life terrible for the children. So doing that made a huge difference for him. And he didn't feel guilty if he was able to say, oh, I had fun at Dad's house doing such and such. I said, great, I'm glad you had a good time with Dad. Dad would say the same thing about his time with me. We didn't get into a competition where we were fighting for each other, against each other for the attention of our child. And that makes a huge difference because the child can then be a child. And one of the most important rules in co-parenting is not to destroy your children's childhood. It happens inadvertently. No parent says, I want to destroy my children's childhood. But if you're doing all the mistakes that we're going to be talking about, you're going to disrupt your children's childhood. They're not going to have peace of mind. They're not going to have joy. They're not going to be able to be children. What happens to many children is they become little adults. It's okay, Mom. I'm going to take care of you. I'll be the man in the house. I'll be okay. I'll take care of you, Mom. I'm going to help you with making all these decisions. All of a sudden, your children are no longer children. They're little adults, and they can't go back once they hear things they shouldn't be hearing, once they're involved in doing things they shouldn't be doing. Their childhood is destroyed. And that's why so many adult children of divorce are so angry at their parents and hold that resentment for the rest of their lives, or don't want to get married and have relationships because they're so afraid of all they've seen as toxic relationships. So we have to remember, we as parents are role models, and our children are watching us, not what we say, because we all lecture great things as parents, what we do, the way we behave, how do we handle conflict, how do we handle tension, how do we handle difficulties post-divorce, what do we lay on our children? And if we could be more mindful about doing those things in a more empathic, compassionate way, because we love our children, your children will thank you when they're grown adults like my son did. And that's the gift that everyone wants to give their children.
Wow. You are right about so much. We had a little note here, Rhonda Thomas. Thank you. She says she loves my hairstyle, but she's tuned into the topic. She is a divorced mom of a son. So if you have another comment, let us know, Rhonda, how you handled it, And she also says, so true. The role model thing is so important.
Yes.
But how when you're divorcing, that means you no longer have this love relationship. And I think children, even my cat is chewing my paper. Move. Chewing my papers. How do you? Well, I lost my train of thought. But children rather, can sense when something is going on. Yeah. And even though sometimes parents kind of pretend, children can sense that. And so do you think that parents should tell their children in the beginning up front that they might be getting a divorce, or that they're going to be separated? You think parents should tell children?
Well, that's a great important question. It depends on the child and the parents. No one knows your children better than you, and we have to remember that. You know your children, and it could be in a family, one or two children are going to take it one way, and the other one or two children are going to feel differently about it. So you have to speak to each child separately. You want to tell them all together as a family when you're breaking the divorce news. And I wrote a book on breaking the divorce news because it's such an intensely important experience for everyone. But you want to talk to your children individually according to their personalities. Very often they will pick up on tension if there's tension in the home. And in some homes there isn't as much tension and the kids may not know. But very often the kids do know. Sometimes the kids are so relieved. Thank God, it's about time you've done this. I've been waiting for 5 years for you to finally do this. So it depends on the situation. You do want to talk to your children candidly and upfront, but you never want to share adult information with your children, even teens, because their brains are not developed enough to understand. We can't fix our relationship challenges, right? How can we expect a child of any age to be able to fix it? And if they can't fix it, what part do they have to play in getting involved in adult information? Because it just worries them and upsets them, it scares them, it's intimidating, it's nothing that you want to share with them. Wait till they're over 20 before you have conversations about the real secret behind why you got a divorce. And you don't want to ever talk to your children about that. Just explain that this is between us two, mom and dad, the two parents are having problems, and we feel life is going to be better and easier for everyone if we live in two different homes. We still love you. We'll always love you. We'll always be your parents, but we need to make some changes so life is less tense. And these are the things we're going to do. But we don't talk about who had an affair, and we don't talk about who's an alcoholic and all of those kinds of things, because it's not a child's place to be dealing with that. And once they know adult information, they can't go back to the innocence of being a child. And we don't want to rob them of their childhood. It happens so often. Parents don't mean it, but they do. Children deserve a childhood. Life is tough enough when they grow up. Let them be kids for as long as they can possibly be kids.
Yeah, you're so right. A text came through with a comment, and this person says, I am a product of divorced parents at the age of 9. I became insecure and uncertain what was to come next. There was no therapy to help me get through this episode in my life.
Right.
And so do you see that where the kids become insecure?
Very much so. That's why when we talk to them about the divorce to begin with, the first thing we do is remind them that mom and dad, or whoever the parents are going to be taking care of the situation. And we've got this, and we're going to work it out because we love you, and you don't have to worry about it. And you could talk to us, you could come to us anytime, let them vent, let them scream and holler and complain, because they have a right to feel what they're feeling. Tell them you understand and that you'll do the best you can, and explain that this is something that's tough for everyone. We all have to make adaptations, but this is about change and not about blame. No, at any time, we don't want parents to point the finger at the other parent and say, this is because your dad did that, your mom said that, because that's toxic. But we want to say, we are having problems in communicating, and we don't want to have this impact your life. So life will be better if we're living separately. You'll still get to see your mother and your father, and you're as reassuring as possible. The focus on change is very important. We are a family, and we will always be a family, but it's changing in some ways, and these are the ways it's changing. We're going to have a new house. This is different. This is different. But there's other things that are still the same. And the more things you can keep the same, if you can still live in the same neighborhood, if they can still go to the same schools, it makes it easier. The more you can. But whatever the situation is, the more they understand that change is a part of life. The seasons change, our school grades change, our friends change, our sports teams change, our hairstyles change. This is a change in the form of our family, but we are still a family, and you will always have your mom and dad. That's the security they need. They need security and a sense that this is going to be okay, that someone in charge is still running the show, and they don't have to worry about it. Let them be kids. Let them know that their parents are doing what parents are supposed to be doing. And one great question for parents to ask themselves when a parenting decision comes along post-divorce, and you're living in two separate homes and doing your co-parenting, and there's a question about a sleepover or a vacation somewhere or a discipline problem, if you could make sure that you're answering this question in the same way you would have if you were still married, then you know you're being aligned with who you are as a parent. If you would have said yes, but now you're going to say no because you want to hurt your ex and get your ex, then that's toxic and that's creating problems. Then you're playing games. And pays the price for that? Your innocent children. So we don't want to do that. The more, and when a child comes to one parent or the other, which they inevitably do, because kids are always testing parents, and they come and say, can I do such and such? And if you're not sure, the best thing to say is, you know what? I'm going to talk to your dad and we'll get back to you about that. That means even if you're divorced, even if you're living in different homes, even if you're divorced and married to other people, when it comes to this parenting situation, I'm going to talk to your dad or your mom. We're going to figure this out and we'll get back to you. And the more you can be aligned with each other, the easier it is for the children. It's impossible to always be aligned because you're divorced. There's things that you're never going to agree on in life. But the more you remember that we're the parents and speak to your children like parents, the more they can accept things. They will accept different rules, different changes much more readily when they know both parents are saying the same thing to them about what's what. The more conflict there is between the parents, the more conflicted the children feel. They feel guilty loving one parent or the other parent because one parent is telling them terrible things about that other parent. That's when it gets ugly. It's not the divorce that creates all the problems. It's how parents handle the divorce. And fortunately, that's up to us. The good news is we can always apologize and acknowledge that we made a mistake. And our children will learn from that. Look your child in the eye and say, you know, Mom is so sorry I said that. I never should have said that. I apologize. Can you forgive me? Your children will forgive you and love you and respect you when you say that to them. And it gives them permission to say, I'm sorry too, and apologize and own their behaviors. So that's very, very important. And in divorce, we make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
So it's good to just get used to being able to say, you know, I regret that I did that. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Yeah. We have another comment from Rhonda. She says, she says, age of child is important. Divorced when my son was 4. We co-parent, and that worked. His house 1 week, drop off at school on Friday. Other parent picked up for the week, clothes, toys at dad. Mom's house, same. We never had to see each other, and that worked for us for 3 years. You know, that's wonderful. Now, here's something from Sandy Barney Ennis. She says, my mom and dad put me in a position of having a split personality. I felt sorry for both of them while they were in the process of divorce. I would never tell whoever I was with at the time the story I thought, oh, they wanted to hear it. At times I was so confused. When they split, my dad moved on the same block. Oh my goodness.
Well, that works very well for the parents if the parents handle it right, because then the children just fiddle over to one house or the other, and it's like an extended family. It depends on the particular family dynamic. But you could see that the emotional problems are caused by children being torn, feeling guilty or confused about weighing one parent versus the other. The parents are doing that. They're not always consciously aware of it, unfortunately. But the parents are doing, if the parents don't do that, and my ex and I didn't do that, so my son was able to live a relatively normal life after the divorce. He still had his friends, he still had his school, and his life, and he didn't have to feel guilty if he said, hey, I want to talk to daddy tonight. Can I call him? Of course you could call him. He's your father. You know, if you have that attitude, it just takes the burden, the load off of the children. They don't have to walk on tippy toes, on eggshells around you or the other parent, and that makes their life easier. It isn't as difficult as it seems. What happens is that the parents make mistakes. They get angry at each other. and it piles up and it gets very ugly. But it's never the children's fault. Children
Yeah.
are innocent.
So I want to come back. I got another comment here, and a question about how you handle it when the child feels that it's their fault,
Yeah.
that their parents are divorced or getting a divorce. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere with this important conversation. But I got to take a couple of commercials, but we will be right back.
If you are looking for a speaker for your organization, look no further than Dr. Janice Fortman, an international speaker, award-winning author, and producer and host of Relationship Matters TV. What sets her apart is that she connects the heart of relationships with the power of communication and leadership. Dr. Jan's goal is not simply to inspire audiences for a moment, but to give them the insight and tools to transform the way they live, lead, and relate to others. Contact her at drjan@drjanicespeaks.com or 1-877-667-7325.
We are back. Now, you saw the commercial for Dr. Andre Walton. If you did not see that show last week, you can watch it on my YouTube page, which is the easiest way to get to. It's everywhere: Roku, Amazon, Spotify, etc., etc. But we talked about burnout versus stress versus anxiety. It was a very riveting conversation. So I want you to definitely go and watch it. So let's get back with Rosalind. So Rosalind, children sometimes feel that it's their fault that their parents are not together. And they also can feel that, why did you all part? Let's say one of the parent leaves. Well, then they feel that, and I felt this, that evidently my dad really to stay. How do you handle something like that?
It's heartbreaking. First of all, it's very common for children to blame themselves. So one of the things, part of the conversation, the first conversation you ever have about divorce is telling your children again and again and again over weeks and months and years, none of this is your fault. Even if you're fighting about the children, it's not their fault. The children are always innocent. They need to hear it. They need to be told in many different ways so that they understand that this is an adult thing. Mom and dad are having problems and it has nothing to do with you. And we both love you. And hopefully both parents can say that and feel that. Sometimes, unfortunately, you do have one parent who takes off and decides to disappear at the end of the divorce. And it's heartbreaking for children, because how could any person, let alone a young person, not feel must be something wrong with me, that my parent doesn't love me, doesn't want me. And it's very hard to explain. That's why sometimes we need to go to a child psychologist and have conversations with the children so that they can understand this in the ways that child psychologists who specialize in in these topics we'll talk to them about. But as a parent, you want to always reassure them and let them know that there's nothing wrong with them, and the divorce has nothing to do with them. It's an adult thing that happened, and we are so sorry that it happened. We're trying to do our best, and you need to keep your conversation with your children open. You never want to dismiss them or make them feel their questions are too stupid or silly or inappropriate or whatever. You don't want to let your children feel that they're not as important. And that also gets into the level a little way down the line of dating after divorce when you have children. I speak a lot about that topic itself because children get into a competition with this new stranger who's in the family life. And there's this feeling of that mom or dad is suddenly more excited about this new person, the romance and the love and all of that excitement. And the children start feeling that they're less important. We have to be so mindful as parents. And parenting is the most difficult job there is. There's no doubt about it. These are just some of the reasons. But we can never take our minds off of the fact of putting ourselves in our children's shoes, feeling what it's like to be 4 or 8 or 12 or 16, and try to see the world through their eyes so that we can understand what's going on for them and reassure them that there's nothing wrong with them, that they're loved, that they're wonderful, and that this is going to get better and better because life is full of change, and this is going to change too. And there's going to be happy times ahead.
So how do you get both parents? Because it would seem to me that it's important to have not just the mother or the father, but both of them. So what happens when one parent comes to you and feels that, this is what is really needed, but the other parent is, not really interested?
Yes. And unfortunately, that happens a lot. What makes me unique in my own work as a divorce and co-parenting coach is that I actually like to get both parents on the screen at the same time. So unlike most people who will work with the mother or the father, when one contacts me, I really try to explain to them there's an advantage to having both of you listen, because the message I have is for both of you. I don't side with mothers or fathers. I don't side with one gender being better than the other at parenting. And what I want them to understand is that I am representing their children. I'm speaking for their children, and I want to shake the parents up with information about what not to do and what to do so that they can avoid a lot of the mistakes we've been talking about and avoiding the emotional harm and stress on their children. But of course, that doesn't happen all the time, that we have both parents who want to come on board. Then we have to remember that we, as a role model for our children are watching us and learning from us. So they're watching us behave maturely and responsibly as a parent. And the children see this, they learn that, they understand that, and they will respect the fact that you talk to them, that you're candid with them, that you show your love for them. And despite the fact that they have another parent who's lacking in so many of these ways, they're lucky to have you. So you want to make sure you're the best version of you can possibly be, and give them something to look forward to in life. Many people grow up with one parent who's not as good a parent as we would like them to be, and they can thrive despite that, as you have, because they overcome it by knowing that they're loved by the other parent who's there for them and with them. We don't want to get in examples of being a parent who's fighting around the kids and also bad-mouthing the other parent constantly. And we don't want to be showing the children the side of us where we're depressed or sad or down and grieving, because we never want our children to parent us. That's another mistake that happens inadvertently. You're feeling depressed, you're crying, you're sad, you're hurt, things are not going well, and your children see it. And very often, especially a precocious young daughter, or a loving son will come up and put their arms around you and say, "I'll take care of you. It's okay, Ma." But once you do that, again, you're robbing them of their childhood. They're becoming the little adults we don't want them to be. That is not healthy for them as children. We want them to just be able to be children and have the innocence of whatever age they are for as long as they can experience that. So we have to step up, reach out and get support. There are groups, there are coaches like me, there are therapists, there's all kinds of people out there, and there's books and courses and resources, so you never have to be without information. As a matter of fact, on my website, I have a free ebook on post-divorce parenting, success strategies for getting it right, and it's free right on the homepage at childcentereddivorce.com.
Right. And I have it right there on the lower third.
Right.
For people who are watching. And so
right at the top of the page, just enter your email address and you'll get that ebook.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Here's another text that came in, this comment. If we put the children's welfare above all else, then we would not badmouth the other parent in front of the children. This only causes divisions. Now, that's one thing I never did. I never said anything bad to my son about his father. Never.
That's so important.
Yeah, never. I just said it was just something we just decided, that we just could not be together anymore. It wasn't about him. But unfortunately, the other parent was didn't see the importance. And when you say of co-parenting, because when you say it affects children as they get to be adults earlier, you said it can affect daughters and sons, whether they want to get married,
right?
Who they marry, maybe they're afraid. And I know what I've seen is that even when it's divorced parents and they co-parent in a very positive way, you can see that their adult children are not afraid, of marriage, and not afraid of my parents had a horrible divorce, and so I never want to get married. But you see that they can move on in a positive way.
Exactly.
So it not only affects the children when they're children, it affects them as the adults, as far as other relationships are
That's
concerned.
the sad part. There are too many adults right now all over the planet who are children of divorce, it changes who they are, and it hurts them. It scars them emotionally. And those scars, as you know, as a therapist, are so hard to overcome. Those are scars that take a lot of work to do. And we don't want to have to give that to our children. We want to give our children the gift of love and acceptance and high self-esteem. We don't want to send them off into the world already feeling wounded and afraid of the challenges in life. So divorce can be a wonderful learning tool. And I talk about the gifts in divorce, the gifts for us as divorced parents, because if you didn't learn any lessons, then you really haven't looked at your divorce. Look at your divorce. What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about what you'll never do again next time around if you're looking for a partner? What you'll never say again? What did you learn about self-esteem and how you treat yourself or how you treat other people? What did you learn about the future and your ability to make changes and transform your life? Because that's the foundation of what you can get from a divorce, is learning lessons that lift you into another chapter of life that's much better. And you could look back at some point and say, thank God I had that divorce, because I'd never be who I am right now here today. And that's a blessing. And your children can thank you for the divorce too, because they get through it on the other side and they've learned things about relationships that they don't want to repeat from their parents. And they learn a little bit more about what they want to look for in life, what healthy relationships can be like. And all of those things are blessings and gifts from my perspective. And I talk a lot about that with clients.
So let's say you have a couple. How long does it usually take them to, listen to you and kind of maybe change what they have been doing in the past and what they've seen is affecting their child or children?
Yeah, for some people, 3 or 4 sessions, and they were on board. They understood the concept right from the get-go. 3 or 4 weeks of coaching can make a difference. For others, it's 2 or 3 months. It just depends. And others will call me back 6 months or a year after they've divorced, because now they're starting to date and they have new challenges and things are different. The kids are a little older. The questions are different. And so for some people, it's an ongoing thing over a period of many years, on and off, depending on how they need the support. But with the good foundation of sending your children off into this experience, knowing that this isn't their fault and that they are free. Children need 2 things from us. They need to be free to love both parents, and they need to be free to be loved by both parents. And when sometimes a parent feels so self-righteous that I'm the good parent, I'm the better parent, and the other parent is a bad parent, terrible, terrible person, terrible influence, and they do everything they can to keep the children from interacting